All right, guys, how's it going? So I actually forgot to hit record on the Zoom call last night, but I thought the information that we were talking about would be quite beneficial to some people. So whether it's applicable now or applicable in a few months. So the thing that came up in check-ins quite a bit this week was people in traveling. I know that kids are on midterm break at the moment, so I know that a few of my clients have either been traveling, whether it's down south or overseas. What you will find when you go on holidays is you're going to see an increase in weight on the scales usually, and that's due to a number of factors. So generally it's going to be from water retention. So I don't want people to think that when they go away on holidays and then come back, like all of a sudden I've put on 2-3 kgs of body fat. Most likely it's your body is retaining water, and there's a variety of reasons for that. So first big one is if you're traveling for long periods of time, so whether that's on a plane or in a car, usually the fluid in your body is going to pool in your lower extremity, so usually like in your feet. So anyone that's done like long distance flight, like say to the US or like Australia or Asia or something like that, has probably experienced like swelling of your calves and your feet. So like if you get on a plane and you take your shoes off when you get on and then you try and put them on again a couple of hours later, like your feet barely go back in your shoes. Or what you notice as well, like your wedding ring, like if you take it off and on, it's like it's going to be really hard to get off, but just because like the further extremities in your body, so like your toes, your feet, your hands, they're generally where the fluid is going to pool. So that's for a couple of reasons. That's just from being sitting and basically being completely stagnant for like multiple hours. But then specific to flying as well, then the changes in the pressure. So when you're on a plane, when you're up high in the air, the gas in your body is going to expand and it's going to push the fluid into those like further extremities. So that's why like sometimes when you're playing you can feel bloated and feel really, really heavy and gassy. I suppose like if anyone's ever had a bottle of water on the plane and you put the lid on it when you're in the air, and then when you get land, you can see like the bottle has completely compressed. Like our bodies are kind of similar, whereas all the gas is expanded while you're in the air, and then it's compressed as you go down. So that's one thing, is like you're going to get some pooling of fluid in your feet and your legs. That will take a couple of days for that to return to normal. Then another point so this is one specific to flying as well, because I've had a few people going overseas recently over the weekend, whatever, with them kids being on midterm break. What you're going to notice as well is the changes in humidity. So like whenever you're in a plane and it's pumping the recycled air, the humidity actually the humidity drops in the air, which then it's got a twofold effect. So number one is you're going to feel really dehydrated, but also your body is going to then want to retain fluid. So it's like a paradoxical thing where your body's retaining more fluid because of the pressure changes, but it's also you're more thirsty because you're feeling dehydrated because of the lower humidity. So then you're more inclined to drink more fluid, which then is like point number one, pooling in your lower extremities. So that's specific to flying. But then you're also going to notice it as well if you're doing long distance drives. Like if you're driving from here to like say Cork, Kerry, where you're sitting for like 6 hours, you're going to get the same pooling of the fluid in the legs. Another point then is something that we touched on last week, is you're going to increase your cortisol levels. So the cortisol is your stress hormone. So whenever there are stressful situations that you're in, your cortisol levels are going to rise, and that makes you retain fluid as well. So you can think about how stressful going on holidays is, like packing all your stuff, making sure you've got your passports, making sure that if you're traveling with kids as well, you can multiply this times 10, where you're making sure all the kids have got everything packed, they've all got their passports, you're looking after them running around an airport, or even if you're going down south, like it's still a stressful time. And then like if you're traveling overseas, and say for anyone in the north, if you're going from Dublin, you're taking a couple of hours to drive to Dublin, then finding your car park, then getting a bus from the car park to the airport, checking your stuff in, waiting around an airport, then getting on a flight, then getting off the other side, getting a hire car, getting to your accommodation in a foreign country. Like all these different factors come in, and so your cortisol levels are going to be sky high, and then that's going to make you retain water as well. Pair that with if you are eating in the airport, so a lot of the places in the airport like Burger Kings, McDonald's, whatever you decide to eat, even if you're on the flight and you're buying sandwiches, Pringles, all those sort of foods, they're all going to be like very calorie dense and very sodium dense. So like we talked about last week, the increased carbohydrates are going to increase the amount of glycogen in your body, again making you retain water, and the increased sodium levels are then going to make you retain water as well. So whenever you couple all these factors in, and then add in probably changes to your sleep schedule. So like if you're traveling, if your flight's at 8 o'clock in the morning in Dublin, you're getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning to get to Dublin in time to get your flight. So changes in your schedule with sleep, changes in your schedule with training. Like even if you are at a hotel where there is a gym, I know from personal experience, they'll say fully equipped gym, and you get there and there's like a dumbbell rack that goes to 15 kgs and maybe like one machine, and like it's like you're trying to piece together bits of a workout with whatever's there. So your sleep schedule's off, your food schedule's off, your cortisol levels are high. So like whenever you combine all these factors, then you're going to see like an increase in weight. So generally whenever you get home from your holidays and you weigh in the next day, you're going to be like, oh shit, I put on 5 kgs. Reality is you probably put on 1, maybe 2 kgs of fat or bloat. And whenever you get back to your normal schedule, your normal sleeping pattern, your normal training pattern, your normal nutrition, you will see a rapid decline in that weight. So generally, if say you get back on like a Saturday or a Sunday, by probably like the Wednesday or Thursday that week, you're going to see all that weight sort of starts to come back off very, very quickly as it went on. So that was the first thing we talked about last night. The second thing we talked about was actually some training techniques. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few things in a minute on a couple of different cable machines and bars. It'll actually make more sense, even for anyone that was tuned into the live version last night. It'll make more sense whenever I actually give you a demonstration. And then the third thing that we talked about was training multiple times per day. So it's something that I don't recommend. Unless you're a high level athlete, so if you're competing in weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, something like that, even any elite sport or like any high level sports, like even field sports, soccer, Gaelic, rugby, whatever. But for us, more gym specific stuff, I wouldn't recommend training multiple times per week. What I would refer back to is what I said last week. It's about planning your schedule in advance. So the suggestion I gave last night was, for me, I use Google Calendar for all of, like basically to organize my life. So whether that's booking in my one-to-one clients, when I'm covering shifts at TFIT, when I'm taking classes at TFIT, when I'm doing my online admin work, when I'm planning content creation, when I'm creating content, scheduling my uploads for my Instagram and Facebook, even my own training times. So my training times, I will plan my week every Sunday, and I will look at what I have in my schedule. First of all, are my non-negotiables work-wise, and then I look at my own personal life, what is my non-negotiable. So I want to be hitting my 10,000 steps plus per day. So I'm making sure I'm scheduling time to go for walks, and then I'm scheduling my training time. So I block out, like I would a meeting, I block out 2 hours of every day that I'm training for me, because I need that me time. I need that personal time. It's not just a bit for physically for me for training. It's like a mental thing. I need that little escape where I put my headphones on for 2 hours and I turn my phone off and just shut off from the world. That's like personal time for me. The reason I schedule 2 hours then is it gives me time to warm up, gives me time to get a good session in, it gives me time to get home, have a shower, and then eat before then I approach the next task. So that's what I would suggest. If people are struggling to get all their sessions in, rather than trying to get 2 sessions in on one day, structure your week a little bit better and have those sessions plugged in. So what I mentioned last night then is, if you're trying to do 4 days a week and your 4-day-a-week program is going to be structured probably upper session, lower session, upper session, lower session. So if you're missing day 4 every week, you're missing a lower body session every week. So now your program is really unbalanced, where you're doing like a lot more volume for your upper body than you are for your lower body. So what I would suggest then is, if you're really, really struggling to get your 4 sessions in, do 3 sessions and change your training structure around. So what I suggested last night is, anyone that's got a problem is like, message me and we can work out the most suitable the most suitable way forward for you. So this is why anyone, whenever we first had a consultation and I asked you how many days a week do you want to train, it's not me pushing you to tell you you should be doing more, how many days, or like expecting anything from you, because I understand everyone's got like crazy schedules and like work, social events, family, everything, right? So if you want to train 4 days, 5 days, 3 days, 2 days, whatever it is, how I will structure your training is going to be unique to your situation and like what you want to work on, what body parts you feel that you want to improve. Like some people, I want to get a bigger chest, I want to get bigger arms, I want to increase my bench press, I want to increase my squat, whatever it is. And then I take that data and that's how I schedule the programs. So if you are getting to the point where you're trying to do 4 days and you're never hitting your fourth day, or you're like constantly missing your fourth day, it's better then to structure the program into 3 days that you know you're going to hit. And then you're not going to get this psychological thing as well where like, oh, I missed a session this week, I missed a session. Like, you want to be nailing all your sessions and you know that you're ticking off all your boxes. If you do have time to get in a fourth session, the fourth session can then be cardio. And what I said last night was the only time I recommend 2 sessions in one day is if you're doing your weight training in the morning and then you're trying to get your daily activity up, so increasing your steps, sitting on the bike, whatever. Because I understand like at this time of year the weather's shocking and it's pissing down most of the time. It's 3-4 degrees. Nobody really wants to be out getting steps in at 8 o'clock at night in the dark in the rain. So if you do want to come in, then come into the gym and do your cardio and get your daily activity up. But definitely big thing then is preparation, scheduling, and that's the same. Like, it comes down to like, I know what days I'm prepping, doing my meal prep. I know what days I'm training. I know when I'm doing my cardio. I know when I'm getting my steps in. Like, everything in my life is planned out. And I'm not saying everyone has to be as fucking OCD as I am, but it will help you get some structure in your life, like the same as you would in meetings, like at work. Like if you have a meeting at work that you have to go to, it's non-negotiable. You go to the meeting, you make time to go to that meeting. Make your training a priority, because that's what it is in life, is like your training is a priority. Your health should be your priority. And it's not just for to look good. It's not just about taking off your shirt and like looking good on the beach or whatever your goals are. It's like you have to think like 20, 30 years down the line, having time to play with your kids, having the energy to play with your kids, having longevity in life. So make it a priority, your health a priority. So that's the 2 things that we spoke about last night. And then the third thing, I'm going to do a little demonstration and it'll make sense. For anyone that tuned in last night, it'll make sense whenever I explain it. Right. So the other thing that I wanted to discuss then, it got brought up on Monday with a client that I was doing a session with, but it's also something that like I've been asked this like hundreds of times over the years, and it's what is the right position to put your hands in for a barbell row? And as with a lot of stuff in fitness, like the answer is it depends. It depends on what your goal is. So your back is made up of like multiple groups of muscles. So like your biggest muscle in your back is your lats. It runs from your armpit to your hip, basically on the outside of the back. So that's what gives your back width. Like that's like you see bodybuilders stand and it looks like they've got a set of wings. That's their lats. Then you've got rhomboids, your traps, your rear delts, and your teres muscles, your teres major, teres minor, and they're like your upper mid back. So all these muscles should be working in conjunction with each other anytime you're doing any pulling movement. So whether that's a barbell row, a cable seated row, a lat pull down, a chin up, any movement where you're pulling your elbows towards your body, the back muscles are working. So it's really difficult to be able to target one specific muscle of the back, but what we can do is we can preferentiate certain muscles. So if I wanted to focus the barbell row on my lats, what I would do is I would grab it like slightly narrower. So you can see if I grab the bar in quite a narrow grip, as I pull, my elbows will stay really, really close to my body. And then as I pull naturally, the touch point is going to be around my belly button. Then that's going to hit your lats. And that's going to be the same in any pulling movement. So if you're doing a cable row where you're sitting down and you're pulling to your belly button, your elbows are staying nice and close and you're pulling to your belly button. Then again, lat pull downs, if you're pulling from overhead, so this is horizontal pulling, this is vertical pulling. So if we're pulling vertically, whether it's a close grip or even just with a straight bar with your hands more narrow, my elbows are coming down close to the sides of my body. What you'll find with the close grip stuff is the touch point is going to be around your clavicle, around your collarbone, whenever you're doing a vertical pull. Then, if I wanted to target my mid-back, so my mid-traps, my rhomboids, my teres major, my rear delts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a slightly wider grip. And then with this wider grip, you can see my elbows naturally want to flare out. And the touch point is actually higher. It's sort of mid of my sternum. And then if we were to put that into the context of a vertical pull, so anything overhead, if I was doing a wide grip lat pull down, naturally my elbows are going to flare out with my arms out wider. Same with overhand wide grip pull up, your elbows are going to flare out. That's going to target more your mid back rather than your lats. What you'll generally find as well is if you're targeting your mid back with a wider grip, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight because the lat is the biggest muscle in the back. It's the biggest and strongest muscle out of all the muscles in the back. So once you go into that wider grip, the amount of weight you're going to be able to shift is drastically reduced. So there's no right or wrong way. It's what you want to preferentiate at that time. So with anybody's program that I do, you'll have a mix of horizontal and vertical pulling, and you'll have a mix of wide grip and narrow grip. So one day you might be doing a narrow grip horizontal pull, and the next day you might be doing a wide grip vertical pull. And that's to give your body balance, because we want the muscles to be balanced. We don't want one muscle to be huge and the other ones to be really weak, because what will start to happen then is the bigger muscle is always going to take over. And then if the bigger muscle is taking over, it's going to do all the work. It's getting overworked, and then you're going to feel pain and tightness in that muscle. So the other thing then that I wanted to mention is I'm actually going to show you from the side. So if my goal is to target the lat specifically, I want to keep the elbows either as far as back as they go is in line with my body or slightly ahead of my body, especially in a horizontal pull, or sorry, a vertical pull. So if I'm pulling from here, I want my elbows to stay here when I pull down. Once my elbows come past the midline of my body, you can see now I start to shrug up and my upper traps start to take over. So most people think that the traps is just this little tiny bit that comes up here from like your shoulder up to your neck. Your traps actually starts at the bottom of your neck and it goes the whole way around your scapula, so your shoulder blades, and it actually finishes sort of here in the middle of your back. So if you think about what I was just doing with the wide grip pull, where I'm hitting the middle of my sternum, the opposite side of my body is where my mid trap is. So what I was just saying then is if you're pulling here, if I was to pull from here, that's my lats. If I start pulling up now, I'm actually sort of shrugging the weight up a little bit. My shoulder blades are moving up and I'm kind of shrugging, and then my upper traps are going to take over. So if you are targeting a specific muscle, you want that muscle to be the one that's doing the work. So the more time you can keep that muscle under tension. So if we're doing, say, a lat, I want to keep the tension in my lat at all times. So stretching it out here under tension, not just completely letting go. I'm stretching my arms out as far as they can go while still keeping the lat engaged. And then as I pull back, I'm pulling to here to keep the lat engaged. The more time you can put the muscle under tension, the more the muscle is going to develop and grow, the more stimulus you're giving the muscle, because that's what the muscle needs for hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is the technical term for muscle building. So whenever you are targeting a muscle and the muscle is getting worked, that's when you're going to start feeling that really nasty, dirty burning sensation. That burning sensation is a rush of what's called metabolites. It's a lot of chemicals rushing to that spot. So those chemicals are made up of lactate, which is lactic acid, but also hydrogen ions and potassium ions. And what that does is that triggers a response in your body to release a hormone called IGF-1. So that's a hormone that's created in your pituitary gland, and that is what drives what's called protein synthesis, and that is like your body building muscle. So you hear people like bringing the terms up of like breaking the muscle down and it building back up. Essentially, that's what this is. So if you're specifically looking to target the lat,
don't bring your elbows past here. If you're looking to target more upper back, bring your elbows back as far as you can, because you want then, once your elbows come past midline, then your teres major, teres minor, and your rear delts are also going to get stimulated as well. So for a lot of people then that do shoulder training, and anyone that's training with me for a while will have seen, I don't really do a lot of like rear delt work unless someone has like a specific deficiency there, because you get so much rear delt work in any of your pulling movements. So the majority of shoulder work that I focus people on is side stuff, so your lateral heads, and then the front of your delt. You're going to get like lots of front delt activation in any pressing movement. So whether that's dumbbell pressing, bench pressing, machine pressing, your front delts get hit loads in pressing, your rear delts get hit loads in pulling. So the only head of your deltoid there that doesn't really get hit is the outside one. So that's why majority of stuff anyone has in their program for their shoulders is going to be hands out to the side. So those are the things that we covered last night, guys. Hope it all makes sense. Anyone's got any questions, as usual, hit me up in WhatsApp, DM me on Facebook, whatever. Take it easy, guys.